Hello today, United States of America and Washington. And how happy are people with the people in Congress? The answer, not very happy at all. But it's interesting the way they've put this together. It's the popularity of Congress today compared to other moments in history where you imagine people or things would not be popular at all. Like the IRS in 2009, 40% were happy with or approved of the way they were doing things. Airline industry in 11, lawyers in 2011. Nixon during Watergate, 1974, could muster 24%. Banks even now, 23%. Oil and gas industry now, 20%. BP, even during the oil spill in 2010, could do 16%. Paris Hilton in 2005 must have been doing something naughty because her approval was down to 15%. US going to communism now is 11%. Hugo Chavez in 07 was 9%, and there's Congress at 9%. That was October reading. Approval rating for Congress only got Fidel Castro in 2008 to beat. I've gone through all that, and I know I've shown these approval ratings before, but I think it's what I'm wanting to push is that this is what happens to people when they faff around because they've come across intractable problems. They just haven't got a clue what to do, and people can recognise this very, very easily. Right. This is from a Bruce Bartlett post in the New York Times, I think. The truth is that Republicans don't care one whit about actually balancing the budget. If they did, they would want to return to the policies that gave us balanced budgets in the late 90s. The crucial one was higher taxes, which virtually all Republicans opposed in 1990 and 1993, and budget controls that prevented tax cuts unless offset dollar for dollar with cuts in entitlement programs, which Republicans abandoned in 2002, so they could cut taxes without constraint. As far as I know, this is all true. Of course, no Republican favours such policies today. They prefer to delude voters with pie-in-the-sky promises that amending the Constitution will painlessly solve all our budget problems, etc., etc. Just more examples of people opening their mouths and flapping their jaws around for no apparent reason because they haven't got a clue what to do. This is from the Wall Street Journal by Stephen Landsberg, and the article starts like this. Suppose that year after year you spend more than you earn. You are worried that you've become fiscally irresponsible. Which of the following could be the paths back to fiscal sanity for your household? A. Spend less. B. Earn more. C. Stop at the ATM more often so you'll have more cash in your pocket. Do we all understand why C is really bad answer? Good. Well, let's try another one. Suppose that year after year your government spends more than it collects in taxes. You are worried that it's become fiscally irresponsible. Which of the following could be a path back to fiscal sanity for your government? And that is an article in the Wall Street Journal. Because you can imagine what's going to happen next. It's just going to repeat it through. That's just plain sad. Right, out there in the real world, 16 to 19-year-olds in the United States of America, this is their employment and its participation rate and employment to population, but it doesn't really matter. It just registers how many of them go out and earn some money doing something. And it goes all the way back to 1951 or just before 51. And you can see it's reasonably flat all the way across. Little umpy-bumpy, but reasonably flat from 51 all the way to the start of this new century. And both the blue and the red line just plummet down. They just go down and down. And they go down a long way. I mean, it doesn't look like a big turn down, but give it a good look. From the end of the last century to now, that's a long way down of 16 to 19-year-olds just not working anymore. Why? You know the answer, don't you? Interesting one, this, vaguely. Share of young adults living with their parents. Obviously, there's going to be more. Yeah. So we've got the 18 to 24-year-olds on the left, and the grey at the bottom left is boys 18 to 24. In 1980, 54 were at home with the parents. Now it's 57. The girls, only 43% were at home in 1980. Now it's 49. And the older cohort, 25 to 34, in 80 it was 11% of boys. Now it's 16, and it was only 7% of girls. They'd all flown off by 1980. Very small number, that, isn't it? And it's still very low, really, at 11%. But obviously, the young are being stuck at home with their parents an awful lot more than they used to be. Oh, this one. It was a stupid title. Something like pizzas are now vegetables, according to Congress or something. But in Washington, Congress wants to keep pizza and French fries on school lunch lines, fighting back against an Obama administration proposal to make school lunches healthier. The final version of a spending bill released late Monday would unravel school lunch standards the Department of Agriculture proposed earlier this year, which included limiting the use of potatoes on the lunch line and delaying limits on sodium and delaying a requirement to boost whole grains. The bill would also allow tomato paste on pizzas to be counted as a vegetable. As it is now, USDA had wanted to prevent that. Food companies that produce frozen pizzas for schools, the salt industry and potato growers requested the changes, and some conservatives in Congress say the federal government shouldn't be telling children what to eat. It's pathetic. Pizza, a good, well-made pizza is good food. It should be all good food. But just a frozen pizza probably isn't. And just with a smear of red stuff, nah. Good pizza can be good food. Or maybe in America you've never had a good pizza. Don't know. You're meant to. I mean, you've got tasty pizzas, but whether they're good... No, they should have... They are. No, I've had pizzas in America. Yeah, there are good pizzas, and it's good food. Good food. It's fast food, but pizza generally is good food. But those skinny little frozen things are a waste of space. Washington. State Department launches Bureau of Energy Resources. We'll read all of this. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad. And it's action. So, it's goodish. On October the 14th, Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton announced that the Department of State is establishing, for the first time, a Bureau of Energy Resources. And the Secretary noted, you read it for yourself. The energy of the... I didn't like the way it read, but the bullet points. To manage, this is what the Bureau is set up for, to manage the geopolitics of today's energy economy through vigorous diplomacy. Second bullet point, to stimulate market forces for transformational policies in alternative energy. Sounds good. Third bullet point, to increase access to energy in developing countries, expand good governance and deepen transparency. How do these people speak this language, or is it code between each other? I don't know. I read some of these things and go, what are these people on about? Anyway, meanwhile, back in Argentina, I'll cut this short. Merco Press, if you read between the lines, Argentina is in terrible trouble. Its currency is, I won't say exploding. Yes, I will. The currency is exploding. Financial Times, Eastern Europe has most to fear from banks' retreat. What's happening is that the banks are being forced to do things. So those have unintended consequences, which some are the banks of Central Europe pulling out of, say, Eastern Europe and the new markets, and it's going to leave the people in the what were going to be the new dynamic Eastern bloc of the new Eurozone short of banking. And banking is useful, and the banks will be retreating from many other emerging market type areas as well. So they'll have to get on with it on themselves, by themselves. Analysis: Italy's debt crisis threatens primary dealers. This was down below. I didn't cut it out because it was just in the wrong place. But it's just the primary dealers of Italy's debt, which is the third biggest bond market in the world. Italy's debt. They have primary dealers like the United States has primary dealers. And they've been making a fortune, obviously, in the third biggest bond market in the world. But now one of their obligations as a primary dealer is they've got to buy the debt, certain quantities of the debt, and them losing a lot on it, and they are whinging something chronic. Whine, whinge. For, ever such a long time they've been making out like bandits, but now the deal has turned against them. They ain't happy at all. Finishing here with The Rotten Heart of Europe, Dirty War for Europe's Money, from Amazon, as you can see. And I just came across an article that said that this book was written in the mid-90s, and it was a brilliant expose on how corrupt the European Union was, but it must be out of print, and paperback versions are £174. Does anyone want to pay me £173 for it? It was a good book, but it's not worth £173. Funny things, aren't they? The way things go in life. Very odd. Right, that's it for today. Probably see you tomorrow with another one. Seems to be the way that sort of life goes. Bye.